that one to all panelists, from Krishna Arora to all panelists.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. No, that's it.
So let me know when you're ready, Pooja.
I'm ready. Sorry, I'm ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Asta, let's
Yeah,
go live.
so we are live. So
Okay,
yeah, we
sure.
can start.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, welcome to this edition of Rose Ek Nayi Kahani. As some of you know that at FICCI, we have been celebrating stories. We believe that every other aspect of life has some or the other stories, and we are trying to capture that and celebrate the same. So for today's session, we have two celebrities with us, Olympian Imtiaz Anis. Thank you so much, Imtiaz ji, for kindly joining us. We have Pooja Bedi with us. Thank you, Pooja, so much for kindly taking out time for us. And we have Ratnesh Shah, who is the chair of FICCI Publishing Committee. So they'll be in the conversation, and I'm sure it's going to be very, very interesting and exciting. With these words, I welcome you all for this evening session and hand it over to Ratnesh. Ratnesh, over to you.
Thank you, Sumit, and welcome, Imtiaz and Pooja. Thank you very much for thinking of putting this session in as a part of our Rose Ek Nayi Kahani. As Sumit was saying, I was briefly talking to Imtiaz, telling him that what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to actually bring the authors, the creators, the storytellers and directors and producers of many movies, India, outside, within India, in many states, and have the conversation with them in their own set of journey, the way they have seen the world. And I think that's why we see that as a everyday effort, and which we have very fondly calling that Roj Ek Nayi Kahani, because I think everything is a story. And I think you've done that story very well, Imtiaz. Congratulations. And I think let me start with that.
Thank you.
I read your story when I was flying. I was telling you, I was flying from Delhi to Malé in Go Airways. And I think it was a brief time of 4 hours going and coming back. I finished the complete story. It was fascinating to read your experience. So what was coming out live to me is the way that it actually relates to what's happening today in a very contemporary world. We see a lot's happening of the excitement which is building on one side, the Olympic Games. The other side, we see the world getting challenged with the ongoing pandemic and the way the society is reacting to it. And within that, your sort of a line which is really coming very live, that how do you really look at possible and impossible and kind of believe in certain things and sort of go with your commitment to deliver what you want to deliver. So it was fascinating to read that through. And also what was coming out very, very clear in that book is that how well do you know this country and how deep this country and what it really means for you. And one of the things which struck me, and I'm a believer of that, is that whole core value of the family and the way you have sort of picked out every relationship and the kind of made it very live, that somebody can live through what's grandmother, what's grandfather, what's mother, father. I mean, it's just fascinating to sort of see you playing it well. What are the kind of attributes where your mother is there in your sort of when you're sort of participating in your championship. So it's come out extremely well, and I think I must congratulate Krishna for you to help Anish put this together as a part of a publishing community. One of our job is to ensure that we help authors to bring this all to the way they experienced it. So I think it's an amazing story. What I wanted to tell our audience here is that we will spend next 45 to 50 minutes, and you could ask your questions as well, having conversation with Anish. And I think what I will do and steer Pooja, because Pooja and Anish know each other very well. They've been classmates. They have lived their life together. Unfortunately, I hear that you've met last time 8-9 years. You've not been meeting very often, but you've lived a golden part of your life together. So you'll start many of the questions and discussion. And I think I'll come in a sort of whenever you want me to steer anything, because I have lots of things to ask from the book as well. And I think that'll be more in terms of a sort of session to how did that happen in terms of his journey, reflection of that. I think the only person perhaps who we are meeting is missing in this session is your what you call that horse who you was there with you in Olympics. Imtiaz.
Spring
Papu,
Invader. Spring
Papu.
Invader. Spring Invader. Kevin.
Yes, so I hope he would have been there in the session.
I know. I
too,
wish.
Yeah, so I think it'll be a great session together. I think without wasting much of time, I would like to give steer to Pooja to start the session. And Alison, when you think we should come in or I should come in, please let me know.
Thank you so much for that. Yes, Imtiaz and me have not met for like about 8 years now. Having said that, we're on a batch chat, which is for our batchmates. And that is an active batch every single day, filled with stories and exchanges of what's happening in our lives and discussions and debates, from political stuff to vaccines to, to our life journey. So it's been wonderfully connecting, despite the years and despite all the factors that have kept us all apart, through the decades. But it's wonderful to know that a batchmate has been so successful and also brought it to life through a book. Very often we have our incredible successes. We don't get a chance to share. We don't get a chance to inspire through our stories, the lives of others. And it's wonderful when people actually take the effort to pen down their journey, because once you go through this entire conversation with Imtiaz, and of course, for those who read the book, they will see how incredible it is to be inspired on so many levels through a fellow human journey. I was watching this little video this morning. It was a little experiment video that they had where they made about 10 people sit in this waiting room, and they were all in on the plan. And this one woman comes in and sits down, and she's not in on the plan. And every time there's a little chime, a ting sound that comes, everybody gets up. So the first 2 times they get up, she's just looking at them. And the third time she also kind of gets up because the ting noise comes. She gets up thinking this is what's supposed to be done. And one by one, they're taken into the doctor's room, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And every time there's a ting, 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 they're all getting up, sitting down, getting up, sitting down, getting up, sitting down. And then the person says, and now we wondered in this human experiment, what will happen when she's alone now? Because she's the last person in the room, what happens now? And ting, the noise goes. And on cue, she just gets up, although she's alone in the room and there's nobody else doing that. There's no reason for her to have been getting up in the first place, right? And then a man walks in who's, again, not clued into anything, and he sits down, and ting, the thing goes up, and she gets up and sits down. And then again, the thing goes again, she gets up and sits down. The guy's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I don't know, everyone does it. And he kind of looks at her and says, oh, then he starts getting up and sitting down. So the whole concept of this video and this experiment was to see how people just blindly follow what has been told and what the patterns are that are established for us. And so often, if you look at life today, it's so robotic in so many ways. People just have the sense of, go to school, do your homework, which is what Imtiaz pretty much starts off his book with. And he starts off saying, back then, the 70s, life really wasn't your own. It's just a series of robotic movements where you do as you're told, and that's life. And a lot of us go through life till we're 60s and 70s just doing the motions, school, homework, job, and then at the age of about 60, 70, you kind of retire, and then you allow yourself in the last few years to have some joy or some sense of meaning to your life, of all that you've earned put together, to now enjoy your life. And then you're out of energy, out of passion, out of enthusiasm, your body and health may be failing you. How many of us really have the opportunity to live life from day one with a passion? How many of us have the fortunate space to actually make your passion and your love into a lifelong profession, to live it, eat it, breathe it, sleep it every single day? Well, that person is Imtiaz Anis. Okay, if you read his book, it's a remarkable journey of passion from the time it all began. Imtiaz, your setting begins with this Nawab and the royal princely state of Margol and in Junagadh, and you talk about your grandparents and the lavish entertaining and how all the princes and royalty and nobility had horses and polo race horses. You had your first riding class at age 4. It's like you were born with a silver spoon and you were born with stirrups at the same time. So let's start just recounting bits of your journey, where your first riding class at the at age 4. How vividly do you remember it, and what was the journey like from that point onwards for you? Most importantly, I want you to go into the part where your love affair with Rajesh began, and what Rajesh brought into your life. I think you should just regale everybody with it, because it's such a magical, beautiful story and a great way to begin.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on this platform, Ratnesh. It really means a lot. And thanks for the lovely introduction. That was absolutely beautiful. So thank you, Pooja, very much. I get every time I think about it, I get goosebumps because it was, I can still remember it so vivid because of Rajesh. He was such a special horse. I was only 4 or 5 years old and I wasn't even allowed to ride him. I was only taken to the club every day because my parents had access to it. And all the riding was done by, my mom and my grandfather. And I would just look and wait for the day that I would get a chance to ride Rajesh. And he was this big, strong horse. And, he had thrown everybody in the family off. My grandfather had fallen off him. My mother had fallen off him. So everybody was scared. But I just, every day would go in the stable and I would bathe him and wash him and clean him and do everything. And then the actual day that happened that, I got the opportunity to actually ride him, it was simply amazing. And for a little boy, as you say, you're told all the time what you can't do, what you can do. Even when I got onto him, I had like 100 instructions of all things. But as soon as I set out, it was just me and him, and I was like, whoa, this is bliss, this is life. I don't want to come back. I just want to keep on going. I wish I could keep on riding and never have to turn back. And that's where it all began. So it was very special.
And then, of course, you went on to winning multiple, sort of awards and little, sort of cute little game things that were going on. And then one day you got to actually do the Gymkhana race, where you were actually allowed to do a big race on Rajesh. How was that moment, that feeling of, oh my God, I'm in the big league, so to speak now.
Yeah.
I can do an adult version,
Absolutely. My parents were extremely nervous. My grandparents were there. My family were there. I was so little. I mean, when you actually saw me sit on a horse, even my legs would not cross the saddle pads. I was that little. Literally, they felt that they should have to tie me out. They were so scared. They were just praying. For me, it wasn't about winning or losing or anything like that. It was just about, I'm getting to do something with my best friend. That's the way I looked at it. I was just having a ball because I said, I mean, look at this. I mean, it's just me and Rajesh and nobody telling us what to do. So whether we won, we lost, it never even crossed my mind, though we had so many wins after that. But it never, any competition I went, it was like, you're doing something with your closest buddy. It didn't really matter what it was, right? You don't have to have a planned event. Planned events are with those, with associates and colleagues. With best friends, you just hang. And that's what it was with me and Rajesh. As long as we were doing something together, I was in the best of moods.
A lot of kids, are play acting, being Batman, Superman, and all these different characters and stuff like that. But for you were living, eating, breathing, sleeping horses from the tiniest age, right? Imtiaz, I mean, you were like prancing, walked, you kind of pranced, you cantered, you trotted when you walked, you used to have obstacle courses in your room with like pillows and sofas and chairs, and you used to go across them, like hopping it over it yourself, pretending to be the horse. Sometimes you were the rider, sometimes you were the horse, in this little cute make-believe world of your own. And your parents were really supportive of this, right? They didn't think you'd gone crazy.
That's the beauty about this whole thing, is the amount of support I had. It was just unbelievable. Even with the ideas, right through my book, if ever I came up with an idea, this is what I want to do, they always said yes. Then they figured out how we're going to do it. They never asked how, why, that question never rose. The first thing that came, is this what you want to do? Because they knew it came from my heart. I was so excited about it that they didn't have the heart to even say no, because because it was my excitement. So whenever I said something, they would just say, okay. I mean, mom would get pretty upset because when she would come home from working the whole day and she couldn't even get to her bedroom because she had to jump a few obstacles to get there. So she said, what is all these chairs and tables and everything all around? The whole house is disrupted. I said, it's my jumping course. This is the Olympics. And I'm right now, I wasn't sure. Sometimes I was the horse, sometimes I was the rider. It didn't really matter. So it was just,
But you always had a thank you speech ready, because you knew you were winning, and that was going to be a thank you speech when you actually won. And that from a young age, you're preparing all the different thank you speeches every step of the way.
Always. You, my book, it's all about that. People ask me, why did I write the book? It was for two things. One was to tell people to live their dream and get out of their comfort zones. But the other thing was really to thank the amount of people that helped me. You could see, I mean, like, people came from nowhere and they just helped me and made my goal their goal. So it was really special, very special.
So your mom would like get up like at 4 a.m. at times. You were to sleep in your riding clothes, so you could get up and be like there on the dot of a nick of time, like on the on the dot. And your parents used to be so supportive in every single way, Imtiaz. And then all of a sudden, you get tossed into a boarding school. Right? You get tossed into a boarding school like Sonar, which is like no other boarding school. It is, because you and me went there, we know it is a tough military boarding school. Firstly, why that school of all the schools did they choose for you? Because you're such a gentle, creative, one would have thought more Rishi Valley to be your style or your ethos, and with the nature and the outdoors. Why Sonar?
Well, I think it was due to a little bit of connection. My parents were so scared, like sending me so far away from Bombay to go all the way to if you remember, Pooja, it took us 3 days to get to school. Those days we didn't fly and get there, so it was scary. But I think it was because they had people like, as even in the book, like Riaz, and I had, friends, my parents' friends' kids who were there. So they thought, okay, at least there's somebody there that we know who, in case, something happens to this little meek, timid boy. I was very meek and timid and scared, and, I was very small frame. So they said he'll get crushed anywhere else. So at least they thought that these boys will look after him. So that was the reason why they decided Sana for me, and it was tough for them as well. Like, I mean, as much as I, used to cry every day and, want to get back home, they were crying at home, wanting for me to come back home as well,
Obviously, yeah. Well, Imtiaz, a couple of things really strike me when I read the chapter on Sana, because it's like an entire chapter devoted to that time in your life when you were at boarding school, and what a fundamentally important role actually Sana played in your life. It's played a massive role in my life. I know that never given motto has stuck with me till date, and through thick and thin and ups and downs, the never given motto that we sang every single day is just dinned into our heads. But most importantly, a couple of things really struck me about that chapter. One is your humility and the fact that most people in their autobiographies are dropping names, their associations, their contacts, where they've been, who they've met, where they've dined, all of that, and you kind of referred to people just by first name. So no one really knows that Omar in there's Omar Abdullah, there's a Pratap Gaikwad who's like Prince of Baroda, there's a Ness who's a Wadia, there's, I mean, these are, I mean, they were all our batchmates, so Naveen is a Jindal, so it's, so, I mean, this kind of need not to show off, but the need to tell the story. Was that ever a conflict for you to try and make your story more glamorous than it was, or was it just a conscious decision to keep their names just for the people they were and not the identities they have today?
Absolutely, it was all about the people they were. That's why, when we came to school, we were nobodies. That's what I said. That was the beauty about Sana. You came from the north, the east, the south, west. It didn't matter where. We had people from different incomes. We had extremely successful business houses. We had army people. We had, sport. I mean, all kinds of people. But when we were at Sana, nobody really mattered what religion we were, which place we came from. We were just friends. And that's what the beauty of it. Even, and you know what? What's amazing? We're still friends. Like 40 years later, we're so close. I mean, I live in Bombay. It's only that I was always overseas. That's why we were not in touch with each other. And then you're in Go. But with Pratap and we're still, after so many years, I went to, I mean, just to say it out there, I went to Gulmarg, and and it was just like we meeting as if we were in school. So those bonds were really special to me. I mean, and that's all we had. We had nobody else. When it was good times, we celebrated. When there were bad times, we held hands. When when the results were bad, we all, we were all together in thick and thin in everything. They were our family, they were our friends, they were, we had our highs and lows, but that's all we had.
By the way, you didn't mention a single girl in your book, and it from Sana, and it made it seem like it was an all boys boarding school, whereas actually the first co-ed educated boarding school in the world. Okay, yes. And you only give boys names. These are my friends who like, hello, there were really nice chicks also. I'm sure you made friends with the chicks.
But when we were teenagers, it was not cool to talk to girls. That time only when you were
oh, don't tell that to half your friends.
Now. But in those days, like, if you had a girl which called them Dempa, they would like look down upon. Oh my God, he's talking to a girl. But now it's like the cool thing. Everybody wants a girlfriend really early. That time, no, we just played sport and that's all we did. We didn't know.
What rubbish! I dated a batchmates. What you talking about? Another thing, again, in the Sana chapter was the turning point, I think, for you, which was this whole, what you call the tectonic mind shift that took place, because you hated Sana initially. Yes. And you cried and you tried everything possible to go back home. You were miserable. You told them sob stories about how terrible the conditions were, about how awful life was. And you kind of really blew down proportion if you had to, because you just wanted to go back home. And then after, I think, a year or so, 2 years of weeping and wailing and giving them this whole really sordid picture of Sana, they finally said, all right, fine. And they took you back home, and then suddenly realized you actually wanted to be back at Sana.
Yes.
And you said that suddenly there was this tectonic shift in your headspace that took place, which was so defining for you, because suddenly it wasn't that you had to be there, you wanted to be there. I want you to talk a little bit about this change of headspace, because, in the courses I do, we talk so much about how your attitude determines your altitude. Yes. We talk so much about how everything in life is about perspective, and how a simple incident like that could change the rest of your life for you?
I think when I was in Sana, it was a mind block. That's all I was thinking of. I need to get out, I need to get out, and I need to get out. I hate this place. I didn't allow anything good to come in. I didn't allow it, because so even when good things happened, which, in Sana, it was not all bad, even though we were all homesick and we wanted to go home and things like that, but I still had some fun times. It was not you didn't cry every day for 24 hours. So there was some good moments, but even then I didn't allow those to happen. So when I came back to, when my parents actually took me out and said, all right, let's regroup, because they really stuck with it as well, because they knew it was, in the big picture, this is what was going to make a man out of me. They were scared of being a spoiled boy from Bombay, and having all the privileges, and everything, and having everything done for them. They said they wanted me to be somebody. So they also were confused. But then when I really went to the school, and I reflected and I looked at people around me, and I said, no, this is not me. You know what I mean? Actually, I got to go back and make that work for me, because really I didn't allow it. Look at the way I'm so open out here and receptive to making this believe that this is what I would like to enjoy. So I think it was something that just changed. I would love to give a scientific, or philosophical thing, but I was a kid at that time. It just happened. It was just lucky that, and I was fortunate that I just realized, no, that's the place I need to be at. That's where I'm going to develop. That's where I'm going to be. I'm going to make something of my life. And if I quit now, I'll always quit. That was something I was always scared of. I never ever wanted to know that I quit something, because I just feel I would be too scared to, I would live my life saying that, well, what if. I never wanted that. And that's what really changed things around, and I went back.
Well, I think also the hardships of Sana really, groomed you, I would say, for all that you had to endure that was to come up in your life ahead. There was a
Absolutely.
never given motto that we all ascribe to and we all believe in and we all live by literally till today. In addition to that, there was a rigor of Sana, the kind of intense physical discipline, mental discipline, a personal discipline that was required of us, right? And later, as you mentioned in your book, that growth and comfort cannot coexist. And you had the toughest trainers. You had Diana. You had, everyone who came your way who was really tough on you in many ways,
Yes.
to empower you and to make you the best that you were. There's so many incidents, amazing incidents in this book about the incredible people who mentored you, who trained you, what you went through and what you were made to do in order to become the equestrian that you are today. How important, Imtiaz, is that sense of discipline and really being able to take everything on the chin and rough it out?
It's everything, to be honest. I really, really think so. And I think this is what I would love to get this book across to parents and kids, to understand that how important it is. I mean, these coaches, they were not interested. There was no money exchange. I was not paying for any of my lessons. So they didn't have any vested interest. Here was one Indian boy who, even for Diana, from year 11 to year 30, 20 years she trained me and never took any money. It was all from the goodness of the heart. But they made a point that they said, if this is what you want, you got to work hard for it. And that was instilled into me when I was in Sana. There were so many things at Sana that really, I even till today, I still get up and make my bed. I still, it's just something that's out of your habit. You don't just get up and, I'm punctual always, because in school, you could never be late. If there was a function at 7 o'clock, if you were there at 5 to 7, you were already late, So it starts getting instilled at you at such a young age, it becomes a part of you. And this is what I'm trying to spread to everybody, that discipline, determination has to be a way of life, not just for a sport, not just for exams, not just for you're giving some, you're going for a specific event. No, it's supposed to be a way of life. It should be something that you're just used to. Always be punctual, always be, focused, resilience. So these are things that Sana really taught me. And, with the amount of failures I had, as you can see in the book, actually, there are more failures than successes. It's because of Sana that I could get over them, because it was tough. There was no mollycoddling there. And, we were all, as you know, we all, even yourself, we all protected, privileged in many ways, with our families really, so supportive. So when we went out there, we were really out there by ourselves. We had to fend for ourselves a little bit. But there was that net. We didn't see it at that time, but there was that net that if anything really happened, there would be a support system to support us. But we still had to do it all by ourselves. I hate to go a little bit off, but the other day I was at a tennis tournament, because my son plays tennis. And, I could see people, the boys coming to play tennis, and there's a nanny holding the tennis bag. One nanny's holding the water bottle. One nanny. I'm like, the boys just walking with nothing. I'm like, what are you teaching your child? I mean, that's not what we should be teaching our children. They've got to get a little tough. You got to have a little bit of mongrel in you to be successful as well.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Yeah. Imtiaz, I was wondering how to take this whole, question answers forward initially, and I thought, going along in a linear manner and tabulating all your
Yes,
achievements is kind of pointless because that's something people should read. That's
absolutely.
something people should.
Yes.
It should excite them. It should inspire them. It should motivate them. It should interest them. As they flip every page, and say, "Wow, this too happened," and "Oh my God, this happened." "Oh my God, how the hell did he survive that?" And stuff like that. But I thought I'd look at more the mental, emotional, physical,
Yes.
spiritual quotient of you through the entire space. Now, when you come to the emotional part, I mean, you just mentioned you had a son, right? But you have a son. But in the book, there's no mention of a love life. And you start off also by saying that if, like me, you want to find the perfect partner, horse, and life companion in a horse like me, then this is the way to go. And through the entire book, there's this almost love affair, like whispering secrets in each other's ears and, cuddling and massaging each other. And this whole sense of, chatting, and this whole love evoking, that there was no space for anybody else, it seems, in your life. Was that a conscious choice?
Absolutely. I was very focused. I knew I couldn't have any distractions. When I had a goal like this, I just could not have. That's why when I went away to Australia, it was 4 years ago, it was just me and my horses. There was no way there was no way there was any excuse. I couldn't make any excuses because there was nobody else to blame except for myself. So that's the way I wanted it to be, that whatever I do, all fingers have to point at me, because if I'm not good enough, then it's only because of me not putting the hard work in. I didn't take a day off. I worked extremely hard. I slept in stables. I cleaned in muck stables to work for the best riders. My parents didn't even know half the things I was doing or where I was. Whenever they would call me, "How are you?" And I said, "Perfect, all good. I'm flying high." And I was crashed. I was burnt. I was down. I was, miserable. But I never let them know that either, because that's my respect for them as well. I didn't want them to worry, be back home, stressed, because look at the amount they've done for me and how much support they've given me. So, I only gave them snippets. In fact, even my mother, while reading the book now, she said, "Oh, wow, I didn't even know that you went through this,"
Correct.
because that's something that it was for me to protect them as well, So I never allowed any distractions to come into my life.
Yeah, Imtiaz, quite contrary to how you start off the book about the Nawabs and the royalties and, the lavish parties, etc., etc. The real story of you has actually been, as you said, sleeping in stables, sweeping stables, keeping the muck, riding in the back of trucks. It must have been, also your job being an outdoor one, always in the sun, in the heat, the conditions under which you've traveled most of the time, not able to even stretch your arms out in a second class compartment, and, all sorts of things. Did that ever take a huge toll on you? Did the physical discomfort of it ever make you think, is this really for me?
No, Sana had me prepared for that. See, that was the beauty. That's where Sana came in. It really made a man out of me. I was a very timid young boy, you know what I mean? And Sana really put that, it made me tough. It really did. And that's how I could do all these things. If I had come straight from as a Bombay city boy, I would have never been able to. And I put that part of that, the initial stage of my background, only to tell people that even though I was privileged and I was blessed and I had everything, I still pushed myself out of the comfort zone. I could have very easily sat back and just waited for things to happen and lived my life normally, and it would have been perfectly. But that's not who we should be. All of us, whatever you want to do, whether it's sport, whether it's art, or whether it's being an actor, or whether it's being anything you want to be, push yourselves to that, so that you can be the best at it. Most of in India, I think we have most people go to where it's close, because it's close by, because it's convenient, because their friends are going there, because their uncle or aunt knows somebody there, or they've got some connection. No. That's not the way to be successful. You have to get out and really push yourself, and you're going to fall 100%. I can tell you that from now. But it's how you get up and how you keep climbing. That's what's going to hold you good in life.
True. Imtiaz, I mean, when I was reading this whole story of you, there were so many things that were just so moving, and I just wondered what kept you going. Was it the commitment to the journey, or was it the destination? What actually held you in good form through it all? Was it the fact you were focused on the journey, or was it only looking at the destination, that one day I will be at the Olympics? What kept you going?
Two things. One was, it was that one day I will be at the Olympics. I am going to ride, because if you look at the book, I'm not going to give it away, but you can see how last minute there was a very good chance that I would not have ridden, right? But I still believed it, that I will ride for this country. I am going to be the first to to make India proud. But the second thing that really kept me going was the people that helped me. Every day I would get up and say, I would be like a burden on me to be, in a way, to be, I'm not going to let them down. You look at the amount of people that have helped me throughout my journey. I mean, unbelievable people have come into my life. I cannot let them down. So it would make me stronger. It would make me run harder. So every time a setback happened, I got slow, I got low, I would think about all these people and say, wow, look at them. What would they think? And that kept me going.
You know, normally they say that the true way to be healthy is the 8-8-8 formula, which is 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of recreation, and 8 hours of work. Right. For you, clearly your recreation was your work. So it was 8 plus 8, 16, because it was one and
Straight
the
away.
other. Right.
Right.
It was that. But, you know, what about the fact that, you know, did you ever kind of wonder about life itself? Like what else existed around you and out there? I mean,
No.
you were like, you know, you're exposed obviously to a lot of people who are doing things differently, who are
Yes.
living life differently, you know, and here you were committed with a one-stop sort of shop attitude. This is me, this is my life. And it resonates through your entire book, Imtiaz, that you really didn't have time for anything else. And today, you know, where you are at today, it's literally been, I guess, close to half a century now, right?
Yes.
Of your complete love, commitment, and passion, you know, for this sport, for this way of life, for this journey, for all of that. I mean, have you ever wondered about what another life could have been like?
Not really. Actually, to me, I've never thought of it also that way. I never look at it, what if, what they, I never gave myself options. When people say there's an A, there's a B plan, I never had a B plan. I don't believe in that in anything I do. I always believe you got to have a plan. And then if you go for B and you have a C plan, then people are always thinking, well, A is not working out that well. Let me go to plan B. No, it was always plan A. And then there were subdivisions of the plan to achieve plan A. It was still not a plan B or a plan C, because you cannot always have one plan always, right? So you have many plans, but it was all still directed towards achieving plan A. And I made it my way of life. So for me, I didn't think of any options, even though I saw all my friends who went to school with me, who went to college with me, they're all in business houses and, corporates and doing their MBAs and, driving fancy cars and, living the high life and all, their lives were different. And for me, it was 24/7 horses, riding, training, getting up every morning, doing the same thing, routine. It was just like a bigger version of Sana. And that's what I did, but I knew that's what I had to do.
Right. But Imtiaz, there was a point in the book where you talk about specific games that you were supposed to be at, right? The Asian Games.
Yes.
And at that point of time, due to a bureaucratic hurdle,
yes.
right? You weren't able to. And at that point, you said you'd lost all your confidence and,
yes.
you just were completely shattered at that point of time. And it was a bureaucratic hurdle. It had nothing
yes.
to do with you. It had nothing to do with your riding skills.
No.
It was just bureaucracy and somebody's,
yes.
fiddling and fidgeting and all that stuff that typically does happen, but having had by that point of time the enormous number of cups, medals, awards, achievements, victories, training, expertise, etc., why would you just let a stupid bureaucratic hurdle put you down so badly, emotionally, mentally, and in every way? Why would you even allow that to happen to
absolutely
yourself?
But it's not inhuman not to. That's what I'm trying to tell you, that yes, I got out of it quickly, but it still happens. You cannot be, it's not a superhero, so you still have to feel it, because we're so emotional with this sport. I dream it, I live it. My horses, I felt bad for so many people that I let down. I felt worse for my horses. I couldn't even go to the stables, because I would feel, what will I tell my horse? That I'm out. And look at the amount he's done. He's traveled the whole country with me in all horrible conditions, heat, rain, and intense. We didn't even have places to stay sometimes, and he did it for me. So I said, and I couldn't give it, and that was my thing too. I was hoping that I'd come back and actually put the medal, if I ever did win one at that time, to put it around his neck. So all those things get to you, and you really feel down. But again, I was lucky enough that it didn't last long. Family came in immediately, and I still remember, like, my parents asked me, "What do you want?" And I said, "To represent India." They said, "Well, then you got to get back in the saddle." They could have said so many things. Well, you've done your best. You've already actually got selected. You're wearing the India blazer. Okay, you didn't ride, but you got everything else. Let's, this path is too difficult. Let's go and do something else. Those things, there were no options like that. They just said, we'll figure another way out. And that also they did not say at that time. At that time, they said, just let's get back. How? We'll decide now.
Well, as your trainer said to you, your mentor said to you, Diana said to you, I think it was, that when you hit a wall, don't deviate. Figure a way to get over it.
Exactly. You have to. And there are different ways, and you just have to find out ways. And sometimes you may not find it immediate. It's okay. you just got to, give yourself time, because sometimes it comes quick, sometimes it doesn't. That's life.
Right. And another very interesting aspect of the book is the spiritual quotient of you that actually believes, ask and thou shalt receive. And
100%.
there's such a strong sense of, when you watch Shah Rukh Khan's movie, for example, right? And there's this whole thing about kuch dil aur dimag se chaho, then the whole universe will conspire to make it happen for you, right? And in your case, it was just about ask, and you didn't just ask the universe, you didn't just ask it of yourself or your horses. You were surrounded by givers. I mean, you had people from friends to families to strangers to all kinds of contact
Unbelievable.
that came in at the strangest moments in the
Yes.
most peculiar manner to make things happen for you. It's all about connecting the dots, and it's almost like when you want something with so much passion, everything does conspire to give it to you.
Absolutely. And I really believe in that. That's one of the main reasons I wrote this book, as I said earlier, is the amount of people that came. I mean, even Australia, I was about, I mean, my first, I'm going to give a little snippet of the book out, so which I should be giving because they have to read the book. But like when my horse broke his leg, I was done. I thought, this is it. This is a sign, you know how superstitious we Indians are. At that time I thought this is a sign, I have to quit and I got to get back to India. And at that time, a senior senator, her family was on the board of the college I went to, just rang me up just out of the blue just to check on how I was doing, and said, how are you doing? And I was so upset. So I just had to pour my heart out to her, and she couldn't believe it. She said, I'm coming to pick you up and we're going to do this together. Now it's not your Olympics, it's our Olympics. I mean, like from nowhere. I lived with that family for 3 years. They just it took me in. I was like a family member here, complete outsider to this Australian family who lived in the middle of nowhere. It was just wonderful. Till today, I'm close to them. We talk every day. I mean, not every day, but we're in touch. These people really went out of their way to, and so many other people in this whole book that came together. Even though it's an individual sport, it's a team effort. I could have never ever done or achieved even half of what I've achieved without the support I had.
Well, most of business and industry always says it's teamwork that makes the dream work.
Yes.
And that certainly seems to have also been part of your amazing journey. And when you talk about team and industries and things like that, in the film industry, Imtiaz, we had a lot of cash money, and it wasn't really a recognized industry, and there was this whole presence of almost like gambling your money into the industry, and there were dons and mafia and all of that until the government, the Indian government, actually recognized its status as an industry in 2001, which is the most wonderful thing that the government did for us, because at the end of the day, then it opened us up to corporate finance and bank loans and all sorts of other things that gave us an industry status. And then the whole world changed around that, right? No longer could the dons control you because they were putting in the cash money, and the whole nature of our business changed. So what do you feel today, having had the entire journey and knowing every aspect of horse riding, horse training, horse gaming, horse everything? What do you feel is really needed for the horse, what do you call the horse industry? You call it the racing industry? Do you call it the equestrian industry? Because you're talking about polo horses, you're talking about race horses, you're talking about grooming stable studios. What is it that is really the need of the hour for that industry, your industry today?
Well, I can say specifically to my industry as well. So I'll give you a few things, but I think even as sport in general, I can give you. So in my industry, I think it's important that we start spreading it in the 2-tier and 3-tier cities, because equestrian has always been an offshoot of horse racing. So it's only held in places like Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta, Bangalore, where the British left the racing. Now it's actually grown into the 2-tier and 3-tier cities. And actually that's where we need to grow it even more, because they have the space. So it's more cost effective as well. So now places like Pune, Bangalore, Bangalore is a racing center, but Bhopal, Indore, Jaipur, Chandigarh. So even boarding schools are getting equestrian program. So it is growing. So we need to really push it into those areas, because it's a wonderful sport, because a horse and animal is involved. Just like every other sport, it's not like every other sport actually, because every other sport, once you finish the game, like a cricket or football, you put your gear in a kit bag and it's done. With horses, it's never done. Whether you have a good day, whether you have a bad day, whether you have a high, whether you have a low, you could even fall off. You still have to come back and look after that horse. So it teaches these kids at a very young age that it's not all about them. It's about giving back. It's about taking care of something. That's why, people say it's good to have an animal in the house. It's good to have a dog, because they start looking after something at a young age. They start taking care of something. Here, they don't even have to have it at their house. So it's a wonderful sport in that way, that we need to really, that change has to take place. But having said that, as a country, we need sport to be a culture. Right now, when your kid goes down to the playground, that's sport for them. Sport in schools, most schools in India, it's an extracurricular activity. Half an hour they play sport. That is not sport. They have to incorporate sport into the curriculum, because it is so important, not only just for winning and losing. They got to get out of that. It's not about winning and losing. It's to teach them, as you said, punctuality. It's to teamwork, resilience, hard work, something they got to work towards, something they got to train towards. And in whichever walk of life they choose, it will hold them in good stead, because they've got up at 5:30 every morning and trained hard for something. So you get that discipline at a very, very young age.
If you could change one thing, Imtiaz, in your entire life journey, don't say nothing, it's been perfect the way it is. There's always that one something we think is just that one something we could have actually changed, and perhaps it would have been different. Just one thing, what would it be?
It's a very hard one, Pooja, because I really live my life to exactly the way I want to. I had a wonderful life. I was nothing I would have really changed, because I really, I really have been blessed. If I have to put one thing, because you're really, twisting my arm and saying it has to be there, and I thought, okay, now I remember my school days when you used to bully us. But anyway, I'm going to say.
All right. Oh, so you remember there were girls in your school.
She was a bully. She was a bully.
I was also a class topper. Say nice things.
Yes, she was quite a studious type.
Quite a studious. I signed a book of honor every year.
Teachers used to like her.
Good student, excellent student, may I add.
Yes, she was. She was.
See, I'm
So
bullying
the
you
one
again.
thing I would say if I had to change would be, I would have liked to have been, based in Europe, because for the sport, Europe is really the hub of the world. The question is very, very at a high level there. So if I had to, I would like to have had all my training was in the US or in Australia. I never had that much. Though I had Diana come from England, but not based in Europe. So that would have been one thing if I had to change. But otherwise, no, I really look back at my life, and I am truly, truly a lucky man. I'm an extremely lucky man.
And today you have this beautiful equestrian resort sort of place, so to speak, in Nargol, Seahorse Equestrian, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. And you do some wonderful work there with people who want to interact with animals, interact with nature, come and have experiences. So that's something wonderful to put out here as well, that everyone's welcome to come and experience.
Absolutely.
All of that.
That's the reason I came back to India after 30 years of living overseas. Another thing that happened at the pandemic. So there are some positives of the pandemic, and I've started this, and it's a family home which is about 3 hours away from Bombay, and it's the most beautiful place, and it's just me and my horses. I have 15 horses out there, and it's my relationship with each one. I just absolutely love it. But I invite children, families. They can stay for a week, for long term, depending if they've got ambitions to represent India, or even if they just want to learn to ride or just have an experience with horses. It's available. So I really recommend people to come, and it's our home. That's what I believe. I don't believe in running it like a business. Nobody in my entire life treated me that way. They always invited me into their home and opened their doors, and that's what Seahorse Equestrian is all about. Our doors are always open, and come and live with us, and enjoy this beautiful animal, the horse.
So to wrap this up, you said in your book that you, till almost towards the end, hadn't bought a single horse. Somehow they just miraculously entered your life, came into your life, were given to you. They arrived from somewhere. There were swaps happening, all sorts of things, which enabled you to always have a horse. And the first time you actually bought a horse was a horse which broke its leg on day one, right? And then of course there's this constant chatter from you about the names of horses. So there's Kutbuddin, there's Rajesh, there's Arizona, Rebellion, there's Galaxy, there's and then you met your dream horse, I would say, Spring Invader, whose name was Kevin. And you're like, why would anyone name their horse Kevin? That's like as good as naming something Pappu, So who really decides names? I mean, what basis do you even decide names for horses? Is the same way you name another pet, or is there?
No, all these horses come. They say it's bad luck to change your horse's name. So I never changed any horse's name that came into my life. It was all the previous owners that already named when they were born, they got a name, and then I just got a hold of them. And as this book says, just like I had amazing people that come into my life, I had amazing horses that came into my life. And you know what's amazing, Pooja? They all came at the right stage. Like Rajesh was there. Just like when you go to school, every teacher, class one teacher, has that is there for you for class one. Then you have a class two, class three, and we remember all those teachers, because each one did their job to teach you that little bit. They don't have to teach you the whole world, or the whole syllabus. It was that one thing that you learned from them that took you to the next level. And that's what these horses did for me. They all came in at the right time and just pushed me a little bit further. The next horse came and just pushed me a little further. And that's what was so special. And the book is around them and it's for them. I wish they were all alive, and I wish I could give them all a book and put them in the stable, but unfortunately they're not.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop asking questions because I know that Ratnesh also has to ask questions and get in here. So I can just go on chatting forever.
Yeah.
So Ratnesh, I'm going to hand this over back to you. And then Imtiaz, thanks. It's just
Yeah.
so wonderful to connect over the ages. And it's just so remarkable to read your journey. And I'm sure whoever reads your book is going to be so inspired by so many moments in that book that make it turn up and say, wow, that too. And
Yeah.
okay, I've learned a way to get over something, and I've learned how to handle situations. And it's a very, very motivating book on many levels. So good luck with that, and
Thank
all
you
the
so
best
much.
for the future.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for taking your time for today. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Pooja. I think I really, the way the conversation was flowing, I almost felt that I just should stop here and keep listening to the kind of passion. Both of you were actually sharing the passion. And I think it's really coming true that, how close and how good friends you've been in your school. If I have to move back tomorrow for a session, which I'm doing with the international schools, I would actually tell Sanar to make both of you the brand ambassadors forever, because
Yes.
most of the discussion was about the school and the
School.
kind of values and
Yes.
stories which you guys have. I very related to the school ecosystem and what's happening in education at large. Yes, and I hear that you come back from after having spent many years outside. I think I have a little bit of an academic question, and I think I have a daughter who plays competitive tennis, as your son is, and I see her playing every 3.5, 4 hours every day. Even now, I was supposed to go pick her up from Delhi, which I send somebody else, and I see the quality which you talked about, which is the greed, the whole commitment, discipline, getting up in the morning, making their own sort of all of that on one side, which is really where you sort of have a play of a family and your ecosystem of schooling or school where you've gone. But what we have seen in the last couple of years, because the children not going to school, and it's been shut for a long period of time. Some of that is that whole gap which is created is a very large discussion happening in India, outside as well. Now, in that context, you as somebody who's seen a very vibrant school system, who've seen sports being important component in terms of setting up right value, what is your message for those children or to those parents? How should they be sort of
I
dealing
think
with
it is tough. There's no doubt about it. The pandemic is here. There's nothing we can do about it. So instead of sitting back and saying it's the pandemic and there's nothing we can do about it, you have to make it happen at home. The parents have to then start taking charge. They can still get up early in the morning. You can still do activities together. You can, there's so many other outdoor activities where there's running, biking, physical activity, and do it as a family. Now, not all the families are sporty, not all of them they're all active, but then find the groups that are. So it's all a matter of actually doing, I'll give you an example, and I'm not trying to say it on myself. During the pandemic, I came back to India, and I was living with my parents because, they're much older, and I thought it'll be, to support them as well. And we live in a high-rise building. So what I did, the first week, I said, this is, we're all sitting at home and nobody's getting the opportunity to go out. So I sent a message to the entire building with all the flats to say at 6 every morning, I'm going to do physical fitness for all kids. And then we're going to play football. So that's the initiative we have to start taking. Now, I don't expect every family who's sporty and good to do it, and a lot of them could work, but it was wonderful because they all send their kids down, and I would run with them and do exercises, and we would do, play. So there are lots of ways that we can do things to incorporate this. So as you were saying with your own daughter, I'm sorry to put it on a platform of being personal, but it's a ways of you, like how, to make it happen that works. But if we sit back, the main thing I have a problem with, just personally, when people sit back and say, that's the system. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough resources. It's the pandemic. It's the government. No, these are all excuses. We'll never have enough money. You never have enough time. You never have enough resources. It's always the government. So, you got to make it, figure out a system, whether it's within a social group, within it's a school group, within it's a building group, within it's a community. It's all possible, all possible.
Sure. And I think very well said, Imtiaz. The other thing which I was reflecting when I was reading the book, your sort of, and I did mention in the beginning as well, is that nuanced way of actually you picking up all of your relationship and kind of making it live. I lived through that when I was reading the book, whether your relationship with your mother, your parents, your grandparents, your friends, and now seeing you talking to Pooja, it makes me believe that, you guys have had a ball of a time in the school. What is it which is really what you see was going on there in terms of a real value system as a family or as a culture, which essentially make that very vibrant? Because in the today's time and space where you have technology which is really playing a lot of intruding role within the family itself, there are lesser times, and there are lesser times in terms of children interacting with their parents, grandparents. So what was going there, and how do we actually get some of that really coming live now in a context of when the interference from everywhere is happening?
I think it's time. I always tell people, I've taught at many schools, and I've coached many people, and I always tell parents, the one thing, whether you have, it doesn't matter whether you send your kids to a private school or a public school. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or whether you're poor. It doesn't matter what religion you are, what caste you are, and which part of India you come from. None of this matters. The only thing that matters in raising kids today is the time you spend with them. You cannot exchange that for anything. However busy you are, this pandemic, I think, has taught us that in a way, because we realize now we can actually play board games. When even at my equestrian place, there are no electronics. You cannot use your cell phone at all during the day. You can use it in the morning and then in the evening to call your parents, or that's it. During the day, if there's any activities, always with the horses, or we play cards, we play, as I said before, board games. There's interaction, because these are moments you're never going to get back. When we were at boarding school, we didn't have cell phones anyway. We had to write letters to our parents. We didn't have a phone. We couldn't, but the time that we spent together was so strong. Like till today, we can cherish those moments and remember, there's because there was quality. Even now when people say, oh, I spent time with my kids, it's not really true time. They're still on their phone, on their laptop, messaging, watching TV. It's not actual talking time. Spending time and actually getting to know their likes, their dislikes, what they want, where they want to do, whatever it is, and not crushing them, letting them talk. Otherwise, when they say, well, I want to do this, no, that's a useless idea. That will never happen. Oh, we don't ever have enough money to do that. No. That's not the attitude. Let them speak. Let them give, let them live their dream. Then you figure out whether it's possible or not. And not always it is possible. That's also fine. But at least allow them to get it off their chest.
But Imtiaz, I think also we're very fortunate because we went to boarding school where we were for 8 months of the year, and every 4 months we would come back. We had the luxury of our parents devoting that consolidated time period
Yes.
to us only. They would make sure that for the 2.5 months we came and for that 1.5 months that we came back, that nugget of time that they had with us was concentrated love and affection and things to do with us, which I don't think is really an option for most parents today who are working 2 jobs,
Absolutely.
and they don't have the option of not leaving home to go to their workspace. And also work from home hasn't been easy for parents as well, because they suddenly have to multitask doing what they're doing in a home environment, which actually is very, very distracting as well. So we have to understand that parents are human beings as well.
No, absolutely. I totally understand. But their weekends, their holidays, it's all about finding the balance. I always say there's no right, there's no wrong. It's 60, some people 60-40 work, some people 70-30 work, whatever works. But you've got to have a balance, and you've got to keep tweaking the balance. This is another thing which I keep telling people in life, in sport, whatever we do, don't keep it fixed. Nothing is constant. Nothing is constant. So keep on tweaking it to make it better, or make it, because it changes all the time.
Whoa. What an energetic, passionate session, Imtiaz. And I think I can't stop asking the last question, which was really What was going in your mind when you did not, you were not there in the list, the last chapter of yours? What was happening, and what was really? Just describe that. Make that come live for us.
Oh, that's a hard one, a hard one. I mean, all emotions. I mean, everything comes into your mind. All the years you've trained, all this. I'm like, how can this not be true? How can it not? They've missed my name. They've missed it. I didn't believe it. So that was one thing there. In fact, one of my Diana, when we were coming one day, she said, I think he's just hallucinating now. This is something that he's dreamt throughout his life. We have to just let's just when somebody has a joke and you just say, let's humor him, let's also laugh. So everybody laughed. So that's what she was doing. She said that's all she could do. But that's the support she gave me. She never even once said, listen, it's over. No, she said, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. No, in the back of mind, even afterwards, she said, what the hell? This fellow's gone crazy. How are we going to bring him out? Because it's over. He's got no. I'm not on the list. So I didn't allow myself to believe that. I said, I'm on the list. No, your name is not on the list. But I didn't believe that. I just believed it's not possible that after all that I've done, which was true, without taking any shortcuts, from working as hard as I did, I could not believe that my name would not be on the list. So that's how it was. A bit, power of, I don't know, just conviction that I'm there. My name is there.
And don't say anymore, because they must read the book and find out what happened then. His name was not on the list, not on the list, not on the list. How the hell did it come on the list? Exactly. What happened? What was that curveball? What happened?
Read the
book.
Ladies and gentlemen, for you, Imtiaz Anees, book is there for you to experience whatever he shared. And I'm sure, we will ensure that this is recorded and actually been shared with everybody who really wants to go through the session. Thank you very much, Imtiaz, for a great session. I must tell you and confess that I've done many sessions, and with many of those authors, I think this is one of the most passionate, energetic session. And thank you, Pooja, for making it very live. And once again, I'm thanking Krishna, who's actually an HarperCollins, who essentially helped. I mean, I read that also in your book, Imtiaz, that they were very helpful in terms of putting together the story the way it has come in. Over to you, Sumit.
And no better time to have released it than the time at the Olympics is actually taking place. There's great timing on that as well.
Exactly.
Go India.
Go Imtiaz.
Yes.
No, I think that was very, very exciting, very interesting, I must say. And thank you, Imtiaz, for making it so lively, so full of passion. And thank you, Pooja, for kindly joining us. And your conversation with Imtiaz was just amazing. I mean, I don't have words to describe that. I enjoyed actually every bit of it. And I'm sure all our audience would have definitely, equally enjoyed that. So it's already on the YouTube, and we'll be further broadcasting it as well. And I am definitely motivated to buy this book and read this. So that's the first thing I'm going to do after this session. Once again, on behalf of Vicky, I thank all the panelists. Thanks, Imtiaz. Thanks, Pooja, for joining us. And thank you, Ratnesh, for your intervention. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
Have a great